getting right into the podcast. What's up, Dave?
Jerred, excited to be on.
Yeah, man.
Let's do it.
No Joe today. He's off traversing the globe as he does. That's what Joe spends most of his time doing. I would have to say. But when you're in Europe, you kind of have to. It's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I mean, you can always go back to Europe, but he actually lives in Europe, and I don't know if he'll get that opportunity again or not. So pretty cool overall.
Yeah, good for him.
All right, we're gonna get into a study today, and I mentioned on the podcast we're gonna start talking about self-determination theory, or I mentioned a few weeks ago. So let me pull up the name of this one because it was done in 2025, which is interesting. So it's starting to line up with something I'm just like naturally interested in, but also, coming up in mainstream research. It's effective responses to barbell-based resistance training in a 16-week barbell-based strength training program for recreationally active adults. Do you think that this was a barbell-based strength training program? I just think it's funny that they put it in there twice in the study. But
I like the movements they chose, and at least the ones they listed out. They didn't get too deep into how they actually set it up or anything. But
yeah, well, then I always double check because a lot of these studies, if it just says like strength, resistance, or whatever, it's like, okay, you're doing Smith machine. Where are you doing the Smith machine? And it was cool that it's actually barbell stuff. So what they did was they had, I think it was 45 total people in the study, 43 women, 8 men. So predominantly women in the study, but still, I think a good showing of men, which also, another side note, this almost never happens. Like this doesn't, it's normally women are always underrepresented, in scientific literature. So I don't know if this is like a purposeful step in the direction to get more women in studies. I'm ultimately like, I think it's great even for like what I take away as a man from this study, because there's still 8 dudes in here, right? So like for me, that's enough. So anyway, they trained 3 times per week, 16 weeks, and then what they were measuring was a lot of, it's kind of like a nutritional study where they're just kind of having to ask you questions, but they examine the relationship between self-efficacy, intrinsic motivation, and perceived exertion on the effective response or emotional feelings, in which factors were related together to greater intention to exercise in the future. So that's the main thing that they were looking at. And so the hypothesis from the authors of the study, they said they hypothesized that training would elicit a positive, effective response. Stronger individuals would exhibit greater self-efficacy, and those with high self-efficacy and intrinsic motivation would have a higher intention to exercise in the future. So that's really everything that we're looking at. We're looking at does a certain type of fitness, does a certain type of strength training elicit some sort of positive response in which you want to keep going, you want to keep doing it, and you want to keep doing it into the future. And I think that that's the question we're all trying to answer as coaches, because it can be hard sometimes to get people to stick to it. If you're listening to this podcast, you might be one of those people who have zero issues with adherence to sticking to a program. And when you are listening to a podcast like this, my only advice to you is share it. Not even necessarily share this podcast episode, share this information, right? Share this information with people who are struggling, who can't stick with it, so on and so forth. But going back to the study, as you can tell, I'm speaking very positively of it, is because ultimately that was the outcome. The outcome was the fact that those who lifted more, they had these better emotional feelings. They wanted to stick to exercise more. It was better intrinsic motivator. And it was more specific with like the deadlift and the back squat, like these barbell movements that, we have said are important forever. But overall, they did hang clean, power clean, push press, snatch, split jerk, deadlift, front squat, bench press, split squat, hex bar, deadlift. A lot of things to pick out there, but I'll dive into some like nuances of it. But overall, I think it's pretty interesting. Dave, what were your initial thoughts on this study?
Yeah, I mean, I love the barbell aspect of it too, and I like how the people that got stronger had more motivation. Like that's something that you want your program to see positive changes, and I've seen that. I know we've seen that anecdotally too over the years of people that like, and especially women. It's cool that it's it highlights women in there too. Is like I know with women, they're like once they start lifting heavy, there's something not even just like addictive to that, but they're like, wow, like I never thought I could even pick up a 95-pound barbell. And now I'm like repping out 135 with a plate on each side. And like, there's just something encouraging about that once you start expressing some of that strength. And of course there's body composition and all the like hormonal and feel good stuff that comes with it. But also it was interesting how, they talked about like easier sessions could make you feel better and even more positive in the short term, but that acute effect doesn't necessarily mean better long-term compliance, where there has to be a certain level of difficulty and challenge to get that long-term compliance. And that's the interesting blend of especially people that are new to working out, like it's not fun to have your legs burning or your lungs on fire when you're doing a workout. People are like, why do people enjoy this? But there's a certain level of that you need to get to be able to sustain it long term. And that's the interesting blend, I think, of how do we not make it so uncomfortable, because no one just wants to go like do 800-meter repeats all day and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this forever. This is fun. But at the same time, there's got to be that level of challenge, but also a level of enjoyment too within it.
Yeah, and I talked about this when I did my brief overview of the self-determination theory, right? Autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So we can skip relatedness now for this podcast, but it's ultimately like, doing things with other people, being able to connect with other groups of people. But this autonomy and competence, I think, is hit really strongly in this study. And so that competence is, what are you getting better at? And that's what I like to ask people all the time. What are you getting better at right now? And a lot of people don't have an answer to that question many times. And you can be getting better at in multiple different areas of your life. But if you don't feel like you're progressing, like you said, easy training sessions, it's that some people don't have problems with consistency, but they're not pushing themselves at all. And so they don't see the results that they should, or, whatever the reason. Maybe they're only exercising to avoid a negative thing, like maybe a health outcome or weight gain or something like that, as opposed to actually really having fun with it and getting better. So that's something that I think that you have to answer within this study, because in my experience here, just kind of moving away from the study, is that stuff is incredibly motivating, and it can be for a really long time. But, when you get where I'm at now, where I'm like, well, I'm not sure if I will PR again. It's not that I can't. Like, I think it's not like I'm 67 years old and I'm like, no, those days are behind me. It's more like, do I want to? Is more of the question that I sit with now. And so it's like, well, is a study like a wash? Then I can't go lift heavier all the time and like be chasing numbers. And I don't think that's necessarily what the study is saying. I don't think that it has to be a heavy deadlift or a heavy back squat. I think it has to go back to like what you're saying, is like, it needs to be hard. There needs to be a challenge. You need to be making progress in that thing, whether that's like, hey, I did 20 pull-ups in one set this week. Let's see if I can do 21 next week, or 22. It's just that, how are we getting better? How are we getting better? And then you really, really check that like autonomy or that competence piece. But then you also need to check that autonomy piece, which is also what I'm talking about there, is if you don't want to do the heavy barbell back squat, because this studies, and this is how sometimes people take science. They don't take the intent of the study. They're like, nope, it's heavy barbell back squats. It's like, and not cleans, not power cleans, because they said it in the study. It's like, no, these people didn't like cleans, because for you and I, maybe we've done so much deadlifting and back squatting. Maybe if we really wanted to master a squat clean or a clean and jerk or whatever, maybe that would be like incredible for us from like enjoyment and competence phase, because we're like, we've never truly mastered this lift. Let's go do that. Let's spend years doing it, see if we can get better at it. So I also think it comes down to the individual, right? Because I don't think this study would be as applicable for me where I'm at 20 years into training. But the idea, the intent of the study, I think very much applies to me, because it's just the self-determination theory at work.
Yeah, face value for me too. Like we're coaches in the health and fitness industry. And the people that are usually drawn to being coaches are those that just love working out and have no problem with it. You see these people that start CrossFit gyms and different things just because they love CrossFit. And it's like, that's not, the consistency isn't the hard part. But I think for someone that isn't in that, it's just really interesting. I think highlighting some of the ways that, and you kind of touch on them, but it could be heavier lifting. It could be a Murph goal. It could be a running goal. It could be a concurrent goal of like, I want to lift this much and run this much. It could be a body composition goal to it. There could be a speed component. Like there's so many different ways you can take your training. I think just highlighting that for people to know, like it could be heavy lifting, but you could either, if you want to specialize more, which, we're not huge fans of like extreme specialization, but if you want to try and be the best Olympic lifter you can be, and that excites you, like you're going to be healthier because of that. Or if you want to be more general, you can kind of set goals in multiple domains and then try and achieve those too, because that's going to set its own challenge without having to, because I'm the same way. I don't know, in college football, squatting 500 pounds, I'm like, I don't know if I'm getting back to that. I may want to, but
you're capable.
But I'm capable of finding different ways to like stack goals together that it still feels the same challenge as chasing a 500 pound back squat on its own. Doing that with a running goal and with different things, then it becomes equally challenging, although it's just a different goal that might just be better for where I'm at in the season of life.
Well, what's interesting about that too is like going back to, you needing this challenge. You need to get better at something. The 500-pound back squat, if I had to guess for either one of us, isn't that challenging from like it's not intellectually challenging. It's like we know what we have to do, and it would just be time, and like we'd probably do it slow and do it right to try and make sure that we didn't get injured. But ultimately, there's not a massive challenge there because we just know what to do. It's like going down the same road you've been down 100 times. It's like there's no challenge to it. But if you take me out of my small town Texas and throw me in the middle of Atlanta traffic, right? I'm like looking everywhere, right? Like I'm like trying to figure it out. I don't know what exit to take or how fast to go. Like you're just looking into all these different things. So my point in saying that is like a concurrent training goal where you're trying to have to master two things at once. It's like, okay, this is a new challenge. This is new. Like I'm trying to get faster and I'm trying to get stronger at the same time, which can butt heads. They can conflict with like trying to achieve them at the same time. So you have to be smarter about your training, smarter about your recovery. It's something that's really hard to get better at. So part of me thinks that's why more advanced athletes go the concurrent training route, is because of not just the physical challenge, but the intellectual challenge if you're trying to figure out heart rate zones and programming and nutrition, because it's a whole new ball game. It's like reinventing yourself or rediscovering fitness at later in life or later in training age.
Yeah, I think that's where if you're on the more advanced, like consistency is no problem for me. That's how you can raise your standard up a little bit to be like, here's how I'm going to push myself. Now, if that's not you, if you're hearing these things and you're like, man, I haven't been to the gym in 6 months, I'm just trying to get back into it. There's seasons of life where three times a week and doing a basic like 3 lift barbell program could be exactly what you need to get back into it.
Yeah. And it's just funny, man, because I've been saying this forever. Just on the podcast, and if you read through the website, in any of our information, for years, I mean, over 10 years, I've been saying, chase a performance goal. And people are like, but I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, okay, let's try and get your mile time below 8 minutes. They're like, well, I said I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, yeah, you did. But I said, let's get your mile time below 8 minutes, because I just know, and having worked with people for so long, what this study is saying is true. And it's true. And it's played out over and over again. If you want to, if you want to lose 10 pounds, I don't know if I've ever truly met anyone who's like been super motivated by weight loss and then like they stuck with it. I don't think I've ever actually seen it, as sad as that may sound. Like I've seen a lot of performance people stick with things for very long periods of time, people who got into performance, not just people who are obsessed with it. But any person who I've ever talked to, coached, seen, known, who's been like, I'm here to lose 15 pounds, that's it, they don't stick with it. And it's just because they're going for the vanity metrics, right? The things that there's no intrinsic motivator. It's an extrinsic motivator. And so having to have those conversations, and I'd like to know that from your experience, like, because we have a very similar mindset in the fact that we don't want to just talk to you about fitness, right? Like, yes, this is our vessel. This is our Trojan horse into getting into people's lives, but ultimately we want you to be better in a lot of different areas. And we just think that this whole fitness side of what we're doing is a peek into it. But you've worked with a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people come to you with like a specific weight loss goal or whatever. How are you playing mental chess with them to try and be like, I know that's what you said, but I know what you need. So like, how do you play that game as a coach?
Yeah, it comes down to, I mean, questions are always the big thing. Like if you can have, when we have the opportunity to have actual conversations with people, there's usually more behind that goal, and um, that's what getting to there is. I think speaking from personal experience helps people relate to it too, because I started like even in the football days, that was my high school football days, like getting in the weight room it's like you follow bodybuilding stuff. That's just what was around then. And that's like how me and a lot of my friends got into fitness. So there's always been that, chasing the aesthetic component, even when you're playing football. I mean, you're a high school and college dude. You're like, yeah, I want to get strong, but like, I also want to
Oh yeah.
look jacked too. So, and I've, even over the past few years, like I went a little more back into bodybuilding and like set some pretty aggressive, like weight cutting goals and those things. And I found the same thing. I'm like, I'm always more fulfilled when I'm chasing performance, because you lose this weight and it's like, okay, well, cool. I look maybe a little better, but now my view of myself is different. And like you said, people, even if they hit that goal, they're rarely like, I've never seen someone fulfilled of like, they lost 10 pounds and like, that's it.
That
like
was
I've
it.
made it.
That was the happiness unlock I was looking for in life.
My life is fulfilled. I'm no longer, I'm no longer anxious or depressed or anything. So there's always questions behind it. And that's our job to lead, or, if you're setting out to that goal, making sure have a really good reason of why you're doing it. If you think that's the answer to, better, you have heart disease in your family and you're trying to lose weight to help that, and that's linked to like, I want to be around for my kids, and like I can see that I want to be around for my kids and my grandkids. Like that's where weight loss goals succeed versus
right.
like, oh, I just want to get shredded and lose some belly fat because I'm going to the beach later this year. And that's where the mental chess comes in, of just asking questions and setting. We can set the weight loss goals, but then we're always setting performance goals with it too. It's like, okay, your main one thing may be like, you want to cut 5% body fat and drop 15 pounds. Like, cool. Let's do that. Here's how we're going to do it. But what's going to help you get there is like, if you want to squat, like we need your squat to get here. We need like your mouth time to get here. Those things you're talking about, of always tying performance goals with it, because that helps some of the discouragement along the way too. When someone steps on the scale 6 weeks into a program, they're like, oh, I haven't lost as much weight as I thought I did, and there's no other performance goals tied to it. Then that becomes really deflating versus like, cool, no, my scale hasn't moved much, but like I can see my abs for the first time in a while, and like I love the feeling of running, and I'm lifting heavier than I have since high school. And then people are still like fired up about the program, even though what they thought was their one goal isn't getting achieved the way that they thought it would.
Yeah. I mean, so many great points there. And it's just funny, man. I haven't coached somebody like kind of in that beginning stage in a while, but I always enjoyed it because of how small we would get to go. It'd be like week 1 would just be like, basically telling them that their goals suck and setting new ones, in the nicest way possible. And then it was like, they're all gung ho, ready to do like 1,000 different things. And you're like, yeah, we're just going to not drink sugar this week. Like, that's it for the next 7 to 14 days. And we're going to work out 3 times, and we're just going to work on, getting your mile time faster. And here's some interval workouts you could do for that. And they're just so like, part of it's like, oh, I thought we were going to be like doing all this stuff. And it's like, we will, but like not yet. Let's just start here. And then, but it's also a sense of relief, because part of them is like, oh, I thought we were going to do more. Maybe I'm slightly disappointed, but at the same time, they're like, wait, I can do that. I just have to, I just don't drink sugar this week, and I do 3 workouts. That's it. And it's like, that's it. And it's like, okay, cool. Because what people don't understand is that your body, like you actually have to change this structure that you've created. Whether you've created it one way or another, like it's a performance vehicle or it's not. And that doesn't just, it's not just chicken and rice and, some form of lettuce and some exercise. It's like you actually have to change every bit about it through the metabolism and how your body utilizes energy and like how you are actually exercising and moving. So I think we've gone probably pretty far off the rails on like self-efficacy and whatnot. But I think it all matters in the context of what do you want to get better at? Because something I do frequently, like if I keep getting hurt, which I'm kind of past that stage in all honesty, like I just to update podcast listeners, like I'm feeling pretty good right now. Like I'm doing some heavy squats, throwing that into the programming. Because before it was just like if I touched those things, I'd feel it again. But right now, like I'm feeling great doing basically anything I want. But one thing that I always go back to, because it's a very hard thing to maintain, is a certain amount of pull-up repetitions in a given time frame, or just anything like push-ups, squats. But let's say you want to do 100 pull-ups in 10 minutes. That's pretty hard to do. I'll just tell you from my own experience as someone who's pretty good at pull-ups. 100 strict pull-ups in 10 minutes is a very achievable goal for me. Within a short time frame. Like it doesn't take me 6 months of training to get to that. But normally, if I haven't been doing it, even if I can do 25 strict pull-ups in one set, those next 75 will take me the 8 minutes, the 7 minutes, or 9-minute remainder to be able to do. So it's very challenging. But I love to see that gap when I go back to bodyweight training. I'm like, oh, you only did 70 pull-ups in 10 minutes. Like you've done more than this. Like you can fit 30 more repetitions in the same time frame. And that's like a very safe place to try and get better, right? And it's just like, as opposed to the barbell wave that people go on, that's like, all right, I'm getting stronger, hurt, take a break. And then you're just like, you're starting 4 steps back to go to the same mountain peak over and over again. So I love experimenting with all these different things to try and get better.
Yeah. And that's where, starting like experimenting with different things. If you haven't found something that you love, like that's where we talk about some of those different domains you can try and you can do. Like I've gotten incredibly strong on just body weight programs and just kettlebell programs, and barbell's always been a component there. Like I've never stepped away for that long from it. As I know you're kind of similar to that, but like there's so many things. If you don't enjoy the you're like, barbell squats just hurt my back and my knees. It's like, okay, well there's lots of other ways you can get just as much benefit for what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's what. And it's hard, I'll last tangent and then we can move on to like some updates. But I think I worked with a lot of different physical therapists when my back was hurt, and a lot of good ones. But at the end of the day, a lot of them did not understand the fact that like what I had actually done to my body. Like it's just like a lot of people have not worked with like a true performance-based athlete. I'm not saying I'm some professional athlete, but it's like you're not trying to coach me to like you squat. Like you don't, like I've done that, but I've done too much of that. And I think that there's that side of things too. It's like you can do too much. And when you're doing 20 rep max back squats like you've done, but you're doing it every week for years, it's going to take a toll. You know what I mean? And so you have to decide ultimately, what do you want to get better at? And it doesn't always have to be strength. There's other ways to do that is the main point. But I think ultimately, end of the day, this was a phenomenal study. I loved it. Sparked some great conversation. But if you're like, hey, what's the big takeaway here? Chase performance metrics. We got the science to back it up. I've been saying it for years. Chase performance metrics. And I don't care if you want to lose weight. I don't care if you want to gain muscle or strength or whatever. Just chase a performance metric and try to make that performance metric more in line with what you're going for. Like a cheat sheet here. If you're like, okay, well, I secretly want to lose weight. What should I do? Well, chase an aerobic metric, maybe like a 5K mile time, but throw in some strength training. Don't only do the one, but the massive caloric burn from aerobic work that you'd have to get like faster to 5K with some additional strength training. That's going to be strength training is the building the new version of you, and the aerobic is the current burn calories. And if it's like, oh, I want to gain more muscle, it's like, okay, well, set a strength goal. Like go for that bigger deadlift or bigger squat. Because I know anytime I've done that, I'll gain 10 plus pounds just like, oh crap, I'm just trying to get a heavier back squat. And like, it's because you're gaining more muscle mass, which, most people wouldn't complain about. But like sometimes you're like, I don't want it. I just want to get stronger without the weight. Sometimes not possible. So anyway, you can chase performance metrics and have that secret goal in the back of your mind and still see a lot of progress. And you'll want to show up for more at the end of the day.
Yeah. And last thing I'd wrap up with on the study in general is like, I think for those listening, as you're scrolling your feed and looking at different things, like the health and fitness industry sometimes has done more harm than good on some of this, of like getting into battles over some of the wrong details of like, well, everyone should be back squatting, or this program, like little specifics on programming things. And I think that has done some people a disservice for people that are just trying to get started. Like those that are more advanced, I think it's great to optimize and try and do those things to continue to challenge yourself. But for someone starting out, don't get overwhelmed when people are arguing. You're like, well, I thought some saying back squats are great and some are saying they're terrible and I should never do them. It's like both are like, you don't have to do them, but you could do them. And if you're stuck, like find a good program you can follow. Obviously, like we have our athletes on, and there's so many good ones out there, but don't get caught in the battles of people going back and forth on social media arguing about who has the best program, when it's very, very individualized, and something that you're going to stick to long term is going to be far better than hitting all the perfect variables for 3 months and then not do anything for the next 9 months.
100%. All right, man. Well, let's get some updates. How's life? How's training? How are you doing?
Life's good. Family's good. The kiddos grow up too fast. They change every week. Our Elise and Noah, for those that don't, like, they're pretty petite. Like people guess they're usually like a year or two younger than they are. They're just I guess petite's the best way to put it. They were in the first percentile for weight. So we're trying to get some good clean bulking in. But our little guy Caden, he just seems like a hoss. So we're excited to see if he's going to be just totally different or not, or if it's maybe he'll just burn his baby weight off too. But it's fun to watch them growing. And training wise, feeling good. Came off a deload the other week, and so getting back into some of the running, and did some interval work yesterday, trying to manage really right now. Speaking of concurrent goals, of trying to, like, that juggling act is, my run is pretty close to where I want it, and I know I need to hang on to it. But like the strength is the farther side of it too. So I'm like, how do I add a little bit of weight, add some strength, but not, because early on I was doing like one longer run and 2 pretty hard runs. I cut one of the hard runs out just because it doesn't seem necessary, at least right now. So it's going to be that continual wave of like, okay, if I feel that slowing down, I may have to add in a little bit of running or change up the type of running. But that's my current dilemma, is it's getting into a little more of a strength focus these next 4 weeks, at least for me, to try and push those numbers up a little bit. That's just where I'm further from my goal at this point.
I think you got like a 5 to 7 pound buffer that you could gain and probably hold on to the 5K. I mean, it'd be slightly more uncomfortable, but I think if it's muscle,
it'll help the lifts a lot.
Yeah, if it's muscle, like I think you can do it. I think it. Yeah.
Not trying to just throw 5 pounds of fat on and then call it productive.
I gained
in the name of powerlifting.
Sometimes that's all it takes in powerlifting. Mass moves mass, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's awesome, man. For me, dude, it's just been a bunch of kids' sports. Boys are in football, which has been a lot of fun to watch. Graham is my middle. He's in the 5th grade. This is his first year in tackle football, and he has played soccer since he's 3 up until now. And he's just crushing it on the football field. He's like, hey, was this sport supposed to be challenging? I think soccer, and I say this to you have younger kids, anyone out there, like, get your kids in soccer. Like, and hopefully they like it, because we tried this with my oldest, William, and he just didn't like soccer, so it didn't stick around. Then he switched to football very early on, because you can do that too, like flag football and everything else. So anyway, he's really enjoying it, and getting to do all the things, run, catch, kick. He's actually the kicker as well, so it's been fun to watch him progress. Same with William, tackle football in the 7th grade, first year of middle school football, and it's just, his team's crushing it. They're undefeated now in the season and just killing everybody. So it's been fun. And then Eleanor, our youngest, is in dance, which, again, kids, sports and activities, like that's a majority of my life. But I actually really, really enjoy it. I really, really do, because we get to talk about how to get better. There's so many life lessons in sports that you get to communicate to your kids, about like hard work and effort. And I did a podcast episode on this about how to raise athletic kids on my other podcast, the Better Podcast. That's just what it's called. It's not Better Than Garage Gym Athlete. Not better than. It's just better.
Just better.
Just better. But anyway, I talked about that, a whole episode on that, of just like raising athletic kids has a lot to do with like focusing on their effort and focusing not on the outcome, and I think that's the biggest thing I've been trying to do for a long time. And what was really cool about that is William, my oldest, he did a letter to himself. He wrote it at the end of last year, and then the school holds on to it, and then they mail it out this semester. And so we just got that in the mail not long ago. And it's like what would you want to say to yourself? next year, or maybe it was the beginning of last year, and it's like a year later you get this letter from yourself. And it was cool reading through it. In all honesty, I was like, dude, did AI write this? Because like it was good. He's like, what are you talking about? We don't. That's not even a thing in my world. Like we don't use AI to write things. I was like, all right, cool. But it was so good. He wrote so well. But one of the things he wrote in there was like, make sure you're trying harder. Your dad's gonna get mad. And it wasn't. I think he said it actually even nicer than how I just said it. But ultimately, that was the takeaway. And I was like, I'm glad it's landing. Because sometimes you don't know. You don't know if like, because your dad, parents, brother, whatever, they can say whatever they want, but it's like you normally get lessons from other people and all this stuff. Kids listening to you is a difficult thing. But it's landing, right? He understands. Like he actually understands that it's not secretly about the touchdowns. It's not like I say effort, but go score the damn touchdown. Like he knows it's not that. Like I don't really care. Like I'll celebrate you if you get a touchdown. That's great. But at the end of the day, if let's just say, for example, he had a breakaway because he was a receiver. He had a breakaway, 40 yards, and he burned everybody. And 15 yards in, he could walk or jog or slow down. And he scored a touchdown. Well, I have a conversation I have to have with him about, no, dude, you hold on to the ball and you run as fast as you can all the way through the line. Even though there's a touchdown, right? Like, and most people, I wouldn't come down hard on him. And this hasn't happened. I'm just trying to give an example of like, no, it's truly about the effort. It's never about the outcome. And that's a situation where I'd be like, hey, that's awesome that you scored that touchdown. Like, your work in practice got you to the touchdown, but ultimately, we're not going to slow down. All right. We're not going to slow down right there at the finish line because you never know. You were safe this time, but you might not be next time. Like those are the lessons that I'm trying to hit on with him, and it's really landing. So anyway, that's what I'm enjoying. Now, as far as my own training, yeah, I'm honestly doing a hodgepodge of Garage Gym Athlete archives, like just all these like programs that I've created over the years with kettlebells and barbells. And the main thing that I'm waiting for is just to click over to a new cycle. This happens to me frequently when I've been in like life transitions, moving or whatever. I don't want to hop back into a cycle at the end. And so I'm doing all sorts of random stuff. I'd say random with a purpose. Like I always have like an idea of what I'm trying to get better at until a new cycle starts. And then I'll be like, okay, last cycle of the year, like what do I want to do? What do I get better at? Whether that's writing my own or following one specifically, Garage Gym Athlete. Because normally when I write my own, that just means you'll see it the next cycle, like in 2026. So anyway, that's what I'm doing right now. That's life.
That's cool. I like how you clear that up too, because random is not like you're just walking in like, I have no idea what I'm going to do today. Like, let's just see what dude, and this is not an ego thing, but like, I honestly have forgotten more about fitness than most people will ever learn. And so like, that's fine. If you're listening to this and you didn't dedicate your life to it, like that's not shade. It's just like, this is what I love and enjoy and like read and research and stuff. So yeah, when my random is like a very well thought out program compared to most people's random, like, maybe treadmill for 5 minutes, 11 push-ups, call it a day. Like, it's very specific. But I will say one thing, like, it's like, what's the back end? What are you trying to get better at? I'm trying to increase like overall, like density, like muscular density, like, endurance, muscle battery, like whatever you want to call it, to try and get a decent Murph time again. Cause I think my Murph time is good right now. Like if I were to test it, but it's not phenomenal. And I think around Memorial Day this year, I really want to try and crush it because it was 2 years ago. I think I was super upset with my Murph time. Like I was really upset with it. I was like, how do you go from like these crazy times to that? And it was bad and it was really hard. Last year wasn't so bad. Like it was better, but still nothing like crazy. And I was like, I'm not going to be disappointed this Memorial Day. Like I'm going to go hard and I got plenty of time, right? I got a lot of time to train for that. But that's kind of been in the back of my head with doing all this like combination of running and like body weight is like, how do I get better at that for in May? Like that's what I ultimately want to do. So that's the secret goal in the back of my head, but no like specific, like, oh, is it a PR? It's like, I don't think it's a PR yet. And the reason I don't commit to those things anymore is because I don't know my body anymore. Like, I don't know if I'm like, yeah, PR in
on Memorial Day for Murph, it's like, well, one, I've set some pretty crazy times, so it's gonna be really hard to PR. And two, if I get hurt in February, I'm not gonna sledge through it and be like, yeah, I'm gonna keep going for that PR. So in the back of my mind, yeah, I want to go really fast in May on Murph. We'll see.
Love it.
We'll see how fast it goes. So
Fast-ish,
yeah,
at least.
fast-ish. All right, cool. Well, that's it for this one, everyone. Thank you so much for watching or listening. We are on YouTube, and for all of our athletes doing the training, we really appreciate you. If you want to try out Garage Gym Athlete Training, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial. But that's it for this one. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.